The ship stood in silence, hidden deep inside the alien hangar. Its size was greater than a mountain, its black surface shining like glass under the lights. The aliens called it Alarian, the forbidden ship. For generations they believed only the bloodline of the royal family could wake it. The others who tried never returned alive. The alien princess walked into the hangar with pride, her long robe flowing behind her. Her guards stood by her side, their weapons raised as a sign of respect. She looked at the human standing across from her, Captain Aaron, a man from Earth. Her lips curved into a sharp smile. No human could control this ship, she said, her voice echoing. Not in 1,000 years. The crowd of alien soldiers laughed with her. To them, humans were weak, fragile, and unworthy. But Aaron did not move. His eyes stayed fixed on the ship as if it was calling to him. He could feel something inside the dark hull, a presence, a heartbeat almost. He did not know why. But he felt the ship was waiting for him. The princess narrowed her eyes. "You may try," she said with sarcasm, "but the ship will burn you alive like it burned the others." The guards murmured, whispering about the cursed fate of those who dared. Aaron only nodded once, silent and calm, without a word. He began to walk toward the ramp that led into the great vessel. Each step echoed in the hangar. The ship's doors opened by themselves. With a low groan like a beast awakening from sleep, the aliens gasped, because the ship never responded this way before. The princess raised her chin, forcing herself to keep her proud smile. But a flicker of doubt crossed her eyes. Aaron entered the ship, and darkness swallowed him. The air was cold, yet it pulsed with energy. Strange glowing symbols lined the walls, alive with shifting light. He reached out his hand and touched one of the markings. The entire ship trembled, as if it recognized his presence. Far outside, the aliens stared at the ship. Lights began to flicker across its surface. A deep humming filled the hangar, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Some of the soldiers stepped back in fear. "The ship is answering him," one of them whispered. The princess clenched her fists, refusing to believe. "This is nothing," she said. "A trick, a mistake." But inside, Aaron felt the voice. It was not words, not sound, but a presence. In his mind, "Who are you?" it asked, ancient and powerful. Aaron froze, but he did not back away. He spoke in his thoughts, not knowing if it would work. "I am Aaron, a human." The voice was silent for a moment, then the symbols glowed brighter. "Human. Forgotten. Yet remembered," it replied. Aaron's heart raced, but he kept his focus. He knew the princess and her people were watching, waiting for him to fail, but he could not fail now. The ship had chosen to speak to him. As Aaron stepped deeper inside, the floor lit up beneath his boots. Pathways opened, guiding him toward the command chamber. The silence was heavy, broken only by the heartbeat-like thrum of the ship. He felt as if he was walking into the chest of a sleeping giant. One wrong move and it could crush him without mercy. The princess finally shouted from outside, her voice sharp with anger, "Step away, human. You do not belong there." But Aaron did not turn. The ship's doors sealed behind him, cutting off the princess's command. He was alone with the forbidden ship. And the ship was no longer asleep. A chair stood in the center of the chamber, made of black crystal symbols, swirled above it like stars caught in a storm. Aaron felt fear rising inside him, but stronger than fear was curiosity. He placed his hand on the armrest. At once, the ship roared to life. Engines hummed, lights burst. The walls shone with alien fire outside. The hangar shook as power surged through the vessel. The soldiers stumbled back, some falling to the ground. The princess's mocking smile vanished, her eyes wide with disbelief. "No. It cannot be," she whispered, for the first time in her life. The princess felt the impossible. The forbidden ship was alive again, and it had answered not her bloodline, but a human. Aaron sat in the chair, his breath heavy. The voice returned in his mind, clearer now. "Welcome, Aaron. I have waited for you." The human closed his eyes, realizing the truth. The legends were wrong. The aliens were wrong. The ship did not belong only to the princess. It belonged to him now, and outside. The princess could only stare, her pride shattered. Her laughter silenced. The forbidden ship had chosen, and it had chosen a human, asterisk. The hangar was still shaking. The soldiers whispered in fear, their eyes fixed on the glowing ship. No one had ever seen a Larian come alive like this. It had destroyed every alien who tried to claim it. Yet now it opened its heart to a human. The princess stood frozen, her pride bleeding into silence. For years she laughed at the weakness of humans. For years she believed only her bloodline was chosen. But the scene before her eyes was breaking her faith. Still, she clenched her fists and raised her chin. "This proves nothing," she said sharply. "The ship is only reacting. It will never obey him." Inside the ship, Aaron stood before the living chair. Energy pulsed around him, the walls breathing with alien light. The voice inside his mind whispered again, "You are not of them, and yet you are of me." Aaron frowned. He did not understand. But he knew one thing. The ship was testing him. The princess gave a command to her guards. "Bring the human out." She shouted, but before they could move, the ship's doors sealed tighter, metal fusing together like stone. The hangar echoed with a deep hum, almost like a growl. The guards stopped, fear gripping their hearts. It was as if the ship itself had declared, "He stays." Aaron slowly lowered himself into the black crystal chair. The moment he touched it, sharp waves of light shot across the chamber. Symbols spun like stars, wrapping him in patterns of fire. Pain stabbed his mind, but he gritted his teeth and held on. He could hear the ship whispering faster now, memories not his own flooding into him. Wars, galaxies, the death of worlds. He gasped but refused to let go. The ship was not only alive, it was ancient, and it was powerful. Outside, the aliens could see lights spreading through the vessel. One by one, sections of the ship came alive. Engines throbbed, towers glowed, the ground shook. The princess's face tightened, her voice bitter. "He is forcing it, but he cannot control it." Yet her words trembled as she spoke. For even she doubted herself. Inside, Aaron's body shook. The ship showed him visions, alien kings bowing before it, star systems burning in its name. Then the vision shifted, and he saw something shocking. Humans, ancient humans, standing beside aliens, working together, building the ship. Aaron's heart raced. Was it possible? Were humans part of this from the beginning? The voice thundered in his skull. "Prove you are worthy." Suddenly, alarms screamed inside the hangar. From the sky, pirate ships descended, their black hulls cutting through the clouds. The alien soldiers outside scattered in panic. The princess turned, fury in her eyes. "They dare attack us now?" she hissed, but her voice broke when the first blast shook the hangar walls. Explosions lit the air, and fire spread. The aliens scrambled to defend their princess, but their weapons were weak. The pirates' ships were stronger, raining destruction. Like storms, the princess's guards formed a circle around her, shielding her with their lives. But she knew, deep inside, they would not last. And then, the hangar roared with another sound, the sound of Valerian's awakening. Inside, Aaron felt the challenge. The ship was not offering him safety. It was demanding his courage. The voice whispered again, "Will you stand, or will you fall?" Aaron gripped the chair's arms, his jaw set. He remembered the princess's laughter, her words that no human could control this ship. Now was his moment to prove her wrong. He pressed his hand deeper into the crystal, and the ship answered. Weapons unfolded from the sides of the vessel, ancient cannons glowing with power. The ground trembled as energy charged through its core. Aliens in the hangar froze in shock, staring as the forbidden ship moved for the first time in centuries. The princess gasped, her pride cracking further. "No." "Impossible," she whispered. From above, the pirate ships dived, their cannons glowing red. But before they could fire again, Ilarion unleashed a beam of pure white light. It cut through the sky like a blade, ripping a pirate ship in half. The explosion thundered across the mountains, shaking the world. The aliens fell silent, their fear now mixed with awe. The guards who once mocked Aaron now stared with wide eyes. The princess's heart pounded, anger and fear clashing inside her. This was her ship, her people's legacy, and yet it had answered a human. Inside, Aaron gasped for breath, sweat dripping down his face. The connection with the ship drained him, but it also filled him with strength. The voice spoke again, softer this time. You do not command me. You walk with me. Aaron nodded slowly. He understood. This was not about control. It was about bond. Another pirate ship swooped down, firing missiles at the hangar. Aaron's hand moved across glowing symbols, and the ship reacted like it was reading his mind. A shield of blue energy rose, blocking the attack. The explosion lit the sky, but the hangar stood unharmed. The aliens cheered in disbelief. The princess pressed a hand to her chest, her pride wounded deeper than ever. And then, silence fell again. The pirates retreated, frightened by the sudden awakening of the ancient ship. Smoke filled the air, the hangar cracked, but the princess and her people were alive, all because of the human she once mocked. Aaron stood slowly from the chair, the lights dimming but not fading. The ship remained awake now, connected to him. He turned to face the sealed doors, knowing the princess waited outside. His heart beat heavy in his chest, but his voice was calm when he whispered, "Let's see if I really can control you." The doors slid open, light spilling out. The aliens stared at him as he stepped out of the forbidden ship. Some bowed their heads, unable to deny the truth they saw with their own eyes. The princess did not bow, not yet. Her pride would not allow it, but her eyes betrayed her doubt. Her arrogance now fractured. For the first time in history, a human had faced the challenge, and the forbidden ship had answered. Asterisk. The hangar was still filled with smoke. Pirate ships had fled, leaving behind fire and broken steel. The alien soldiers struggled to recover, their pride wounded but their lives spared. And in the center of it all stood Ilarion, glowing with ancient fire, alive for the first time in centuries. The alien princess stared at the human who stepped down from the ramp. Aaron's face was pale, his body trembling from the weight of the ship's power. But his eyes held steady fire. He looked like a man who had seen something no one else could see. And indeed, he had. The princess stepped forward, her voice sharp, though it carried a tremor of doubt. "You survived, but this is not control," she declared. "The ship will never belong to a human." The guards nodded nervously, though their eyes betrayed uncertainty. Some of them had already whispered that perhaps the legends were wrong. Aaron met her gaze, calm and steady. "I don't think it belongs to anyone," he said softly. "It chose to wake, and I was there." The princess clenched her jaw, angered by his quiet confidence. She wanted to laugh again, to mock him. But the ship behind him hummed, as if defending him. The sound silenced even her tongue. Inside the ship, the core stirred again. Lights spread across the vast alien hull like veins filling with blood. Energy pulsed through every corridor, through every weapon, through every secret chamber. It was no longer dormant. It was awakening. Aaron felt the call again, the voice whispering inside his mind, "You are not complete. You must see me." He frowned, breathing hard. The ship was speaking to him clearer now, guiding him deeper, not just to sit in its chair, but to find its heart. The princess saw the glow inside the ship's open door. For a moment, curiosity cracked her pride. She stepped closer, her eyes following the human. "You would dare go further?" she asked, half in challenge, half in fear. Aaron turned to her. "You said no human could control this ship," he answered. "Maybe you're right. But maybe it doesn't want control. Maybe it wants something else." Her lips tightened, but she followed him. The guards tried to stop her, but she raised her hand, silencing them. If the ship was truly awakening, she had to see it herself, even if it meant walking beside a human. Inside, the corridors lit up as they walked. The walls shifted like liquid crystal, opening pathways that no alien had ever seen before. Aaron's boots echoed on the glowing floor, while the princess walked behind him, her pride fighting her. Wonder, every step brought them closer to the core. Every symbol on the wall pulsed brighter, almost as if bowing to Aaron's presence. Finally, they reached a vast chamber. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. At the center floated a sphere of pure light, shifting and breathing like a living heart. It was the ship's core, the true mind of Ilarion. The princess gasped, covering her mouth. In all her life, she had never seen this. Not even her ancestors had spoken of such a place. Aaron felt the voice stronger than ever. I remember you. I remember your kind. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. What do you mean? He whispered. The light pulsed, showing visions. Flashes of humans working side by side with ancient aliens. They were not slaves nor strangers. They were builders, creators, partners. Aaron's knees grew weak as the truth sank in. Humans were not outsiders. They were part of the ship's birth. The princess stumbled back, her face pale. This is impossible, she muttered. Her entire life had been built on the legend that her royal bloodline alone was worthy. But now the truth was burning away that lie. Aaron placed his hand against the sphere of light. Pain shot through his body like fire, but he did not pull away. The ship's mind opened to him, flooding him with stars and maps and battles long forgotten. He saw civilizations rising and falling, wars tearing across galaxies, and he saw something else. A hidden memory locked deep inside. A warning. The voice echoed with thunder. Darkness is coming. The war never ended. Aaron gasped, pulling his hand back. He staggered, almost falling. The princess rushed forward despite herself, catching his arm. What did it show you? She demanded. Aaron met her eyes, his own wide with fear. Something worse than pirates, he said. Something that could burn this galaxy to ash. The chamber trembled as if the ship itself agreed. The princess looked at the glowing sphere. Her pride now shattered into pieces. She had laughed at the human, mocked him, dismissed him. But now she saw with her own eyes. The forbidden ship had not only accepted him, it had warned him. And that warning was for them all. Outside, the soldiers waited nervously. The hangar was silent except for the steady hum of the ship. They did not know what was happening inside, but they could feel it. The awakening had only begun. Aaron looked once more at the glowing core. The voice whispered, "Softer now, I have chosen. But the choice is not yet complete." He tightened his fists. He did not fully understand, but he knew one thing. The galaxy was in danger, and this ship had just made him part of something far bigger than himself. The princess lowered her gaze, her pride silent for the first time. The human had walked where she feared to tread. He had touched the heart of Ilarion, and he had survived, but she knew this was only the beginning. The awakening was not finished, and soon, the whole galaxy would hear the echo of the ship's return. The awakening of Ilarion did not go unnoticed. Across the stars, enemies who feared the ship for centuries felt its heartbeat return, and some, who long waited for this moment, prepared their fleets to strike. Back in the alien hangar, Aaron and the princess stepped out of the ship. The soldiers stared in silence, their eyes wide with disbelief. The princess raised her voice to steady them. "Do not be afraid. The ship still belongs to us," she declared. But her words shook, for deep inside she knew they were not true. Aaron said nothing, his thoughts still tangled with the visions of war. The voice of the ship echoed faintly in his mind. "The test is not over. You must prove yourself." The ground rumbled. Sirens screamed across the alien city. Scouts rushed into the hangar, their faces pale with fear. "Princess!" Enemy fleet approaching, more than 20 warships. The soldiers gasped. It was the same pirate clans who attacked earlier, but now they had returned in force. The princess's face turned grim. Her guards raised weapons, but she knew it would not be enough. The city's defenses were weak, their ships outnumbered. This battle would crush them. Aaron looked at the glowing vessel behind him. He felt its silent call, as if it was waiting for him. He turned to the princess. "Your people cannot hold against them," he said, "but the ship can." She glared at him, torn between pride and survival. "You think you can save us all? With a ship you barely touched?" Aaron's eyes did not waver. "It's not about control," he said. "It's about trust. And I think it trusts me." The princess hesitated, her lips pressed tight, but the sky above thundered with enemy fire. Explosions lit the horizon, and her people screamed. Finally, she whispered, "Then prove it, human." Aaron sprinted up the ramp, the ship's doors sliding open as if welcoming him. The princess followed, against her pride, but guided by survival. Together, they entered the command chamber. The chair glowed once more, waiting for him. Aaron sat, his hands gripping the crystal arms. The voice roared in his mind. "The test begins. Hold firm." Energy surged through his body, linking his heartbeat to the pulse of Ilarion outside. The hangar roof cracked open. The ancient ship lifted slowly into the air, engines blazing with white fire. The soldiers below shielded their eyes. For centuries, they had called this ship cursed. Now it rose again, carried by a human. The enemy fleet descended like vultures, their weapons glowing red. They opened fire, beams of energy tearing through the sky. But Ilarion answered. Blue shields rippled across its surface, deflecting the blasts. The ground shook, yet the ship held steady. Aaron gritted his teeth, focusing. He could feel every part of the vessel as if it were his own body. The cannons waited for his command. The engines begged to unleash their power. "Fire," he whispered, and the ship obeyed. A thunderous beam shot from its side. It tore through two pirate ships at once, ripping them apart in flames. The soldiers below cried out in awe. The princess held her breath, watching the human guide the most powerful weapon her people had ever known. But the pirates were relentless. They swarmed, circling like wolves, their guns firing in unison. The ship shook violently, sparks raining inside the chamber. Aaron clenched the chair, forcing his mind to stay connected. The voice whispered, "Do not fight as they do. Fight as you are." He closed his eyes, breathing deep. He stopped trying to command the ship and instead let his instincts flow. The vessel responded instantly, weaving through enemy fire with impossible grace. It was no longer just a machine. It was alive, moving as if it knew his thoughts before he spoke them. The princess watched in stunned silence. This was no accident, no trick. The ship was truly bonded to him. Every movement was proof. Enemy missiles streaked closer, a wave too strong to dodge. Aaron's eyes snapped open. Shields now, he shouted. Ilarion responded, walls of energy flaring bright. The missiles struck. Fire and thunder shook the sky. But when the flames cleared, the ship still stood, untouched. The pirates hesitated, fear creeping into their ranks. One of their captains shouted through the comms, "It cannot be. The human is in control." Panic spread, but desperation drove them forward. They launched everything they had in one last desperate storm. Aaron's heartbeat raced. The ship's weapons glowed, gathering more power than before. The voice spoke once more. "Show them who you are." Aaron gritted his teeth and raised his hand as if pulling the trigger himself. The ship unleashed its fury. Beams of pure white light tore across the sky. One by one, the pirate ships exploded, their remains falling like burning meteors. The final blast ripped through the pirate flagship. A blinding explosion lit the heavens, the sound echoing across the land. When the fire faded, silence fell. The entire fleet was gone, destroyed in minutes. The alien soldiers below dropped to their knees, staring in awe. The princess stood frozen, unable to deny it any longer. The forbidden ship had chosen, and it had chosen a human inside. Aaron slumped in the chair, his body shaking. The strain was heavy, but he was still alive. The princess stepped closer, her voice softer now. "You saved us," she whispered, but Aaron shook his head, his eyes still on the glowing walls. "No, "Ilarion saved us," he said. "I only listened." The voice echoed once more in his mind. "The first fire has been passed. Greater storms await." Aaron opened his eyes slowly. The test of fire was complete, but he knew this was only the beginning. The smoke of battle still drifted across the alien skies. The city was saved, the pirate fleet destroyed. Yet the silence that followed was heavier than war itself. The soldiers gathered in the hangar, their armor scorched, their faces filled. With awe and fear, they whispered the truth none of them wished to say out loud. The forbidden ship had awakened, not for the princess, not for her bloodline, but for a human. The princess stood among them, her royal robe torn from fire, her crown tilted. Her people looked to her for answers, but she had none. Her heart, once hard with pride, now carried cracks. She had mocked the human, called him weak, called him unworthy. But she had seen with her own eyes what he had done. He had stood inside Ilarion, faced the storm, and commanded it as if it were part of him. Yet still, she told herself it could not be true. It must not be true, if a human could awaken the ship. Then her people's legends, her ancestors' pride, her very throne, all of it was a lie. Aaron stepped out of the ship at last, pale and shaking, but alive. The soldiers bowed their heads as he walked past them. Some even lowered their weapons in respect. The princess's chest tightened at the sight. That respect had always belonged to her alone. Now it was being given to a stranger from Earth. She forced herself to stand tall, though inside she trembled. Her voice rose above the murmurs, sharp and cold. "Do not be fooled, my people. This human is not chosen. He is dangerous." The soldiers flinched, confused by her words. Dangerous. He had saved them, but no one dared to question their princess aloud. Aaron turned to her, his expression calm, though his eyes carried exhaustion. "I didn't come here to take your people," he said quietly. "I only came because the ship called me." The princess narrowed her eyes, anger rising in her chest. "Lies," she hissed, but her voice shook. And she knew it. That night, the princess retreated to her chamber. Her hands trembled as she removed her crown, placing it on the table before her. The echoes of the battle still haunted her ears. The roar of the ship, the sight of her people bowing, the fire in the human's eyes. She pressed her hands against her face, her pride and fear clashing inside. For hours she paced the floor, memories of her childhood stories flooding her mind. Her tutors had told her, only royal blood can command the ship. Only the princess can save the galaxy if the day ever comes. She had believed it with every breath. Now, one human, an outsider, a fragile being from a small planet, had shattered all of it in a single day. But doubt crept deeper. What if the stories were wrong? What if her ancestors had hidden the truth? The thought made her chest burn with shame and anger. Meanwhile, Aaron sat alone inside Ilarion's command chamber. The ship hummed softly around him, as if breathing in rhythm with his own heart. The voice was quieter now, but still present. "You are not alone," though she does not see it yet. Aaron leaned back in the chair. His eyes closing, he thought about Earth, about how small it was compared to this galaxy of war and power. And yet somehow, he was here, chosen by a ship that should have belonged to someone else. He understood the princess's anger, her pride, her pain, but he also knew something darker was coming. The visions the ship had shown him, of war, of destruction, they were not distant. They were near. The next morning, the princess returned to the hangar, her guards following. Aaron was there, already speaking to the alien engineers who studied the ship in awe. When she entered, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, waiting for her command. Her pride screamed at her to banish the human, to cast him into chains. But her reason whispered that without him, they were doomed. She stepped forward, her voice carefully steady. "You think this ship has accepted you, human?" she asked coldly. Aaron looked at her, his expression unreadable. "I don't think," he answered. "I know." Her heart throbbed with anger at his boldness, but behind the anger was fear. Fear that he was right, She drew closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. If the ship has truly chosen you, then what does that make me? For the first time, Aaron saw not the proud ruler but the woman beneath. A woman carrying the weight of her people's legends, now crumbling in her hands. He spoke gently. Maybe it makes you the one who will stand with me, not above me. The words pierced her pride like a blade. She wanted to reject them, to spit in his face. But deep inside, something softer stirred, something she had buried beneath her crown. The possibility that he was not her rival, but her ally. Still, she could not admit it, not yet. She turned away sharply, her robe swirling behind her. Her voice rose again, strong enough for all to hear. Do not think this proves anything, human, she declared. The ship may answer you now, but its heart will always belong to the royal bloodline. But when she walked out, her hands shook at her sides. Her doubt had grown into a shadow she could not escape, and that shadow whispered a truth she feared most of all, that her people's salvation might not come from her, but from the human she once mocked. The days after the battle were filled with uneasy silence. The alien city rebuilt its defenses, repairing towers and streets scarred by fire. But whispers spread faster than repairs. Whispers that a human had awakened Ilarion, the Forbiddens. Ship, whispers that the old legends were wrong. The princess heard these whispers everywhere she went. Her people bowed to her, but their eyes no longer carried the same blind faith. Some of them now looked past her, to Aaron. Every glance cut into her pride like a blade. One evening, she stood alone on a high balcony, staring at the glowing vessel resting in its cradle. The stars above seemed smaller compared to it. That ship was supposed to be hers, her destiny. But every beat of its core belonged to the human, her fists clenched at her sides. She hated him for it, yet a quiet voice inside her heart whispered that perhaps she did not hate him at all. Inside the ship, Aaron sat in the crystal chair. He had grown more used to the voice now, its presence steady, almost comforting. Sometimes it spoke in words, sometimes only in feelings, but it always carried a single message, bond deeper. That night, as the princess approached, the ship's doors opened for her without resistance. It startled her, for before, the vessel had rejected her bloodline. Now it allowed her in. She stepped inside carefully, the glow of the corridors guiding her toward Aaron. He turned as she entered the command chamber. "You came," he said softly. She raised her chin, her voice sharp. "I am here because I must see the truth with my own eyes." Aaron nodded, not arguing. "The ship has been calling," he said. "Not just to me, to both of us." She frowned, unsure if he spoke the truth or only tried to pull her into a strange bond. But before she could reply, the ship rumbled beneath them. The floor lit with brighter symbols, and a pathway opened deeper into its heart. Aaron looked at her, his voice low. "It wants us to go together." For a long moment, the princess hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, she stepped forward. Side by side, they walked into the hidden passage. The air grew colder, filled with a low hum like a heartbeat. Walls shifted around them, forming spirals of light and crystal. It was as if the ship was alive, guiding them toward its most secret place. At last, they entered a chamber unlike any other. In its center floated a sphere of light, larger than both of them. It pulsed slowly, like a living star contained within glass. Aaron whispered, "The core." The princess's breath caught in her throat. No one in her people's history had ever seen this place. Not even the oldest scrolls spoke of it. She felt small before its glow, as if standing before the judgment of gods. The voice thundered inside both their minds at once. "You come as two, but you are not one." The princess staggered, clutching her head. She had never heard the voice before, until now. Aaron reached to steady her, but she pulled away, her pride still sharp, yet the fear in her eyes betrayed her strength. "What do you want from us?" Aaron asked aloud. The sphere pulsed brighter. "Bond, or be broken." The floor split beneath them, and pillars of light rose around the chamber. Symbols swirled, testing them with images and visions. The princess cried out as memories not her own flooded into her mind. She saw ancient humans and aliens working side by side. She saw the ship's birth, its creators binding their souls into its heart. And she saw betrayal, wars that tore the alliance apart, humans forgotten, aliens clinging to lies of royalty. Tears stung her eyes as the truth shattered the stories of her people. Her ancestors had not been the sole heirs. They had been the survivors of a broken bond. Her bloodline was not chosen. It was only one piece of a greater whole. Aaron, too, struggled beneath the visions. He saw the future, the darkness approaching, fleets greater than pirates, shadows devouring stars. He fell to one knee, gripping the ground. The ship's voice pressed harder. Only united will you awaken me fully. Only trust will unlock the bond. The princess trembled, her pride screaming to resist. But when she looked at Aaron, she saw his face pale, his body shaking from the weight of visions. Despite everything, despite her anger, he did not let go. He endured. She realized then that his strength was not arrogance but resilience. Slowly, painfully, she reached her hand toward him. Aaron looked up, surprised. Her voice cracked as she spoke. If this ship demands trust, then I will try. Their hands touched, and the chamber exploded with light. The core pulsed like a sun, bathing them in waves of energy. Symbols carved into the walls ignited, stretching out like constellations across the chamber. The bond was forged, not of blood, but of trust. The princess gasped as the ship's voice filled her mind. Not as an echo, but as a companion. Now you hear me too, it said. Her eyes widened. For the first time, she understood what the human had carried all along. Together they rose, their hands still joined. The ship's heartbeat thundered stronger, its engines flaring even at rest. Outside, the soldiers fell to their knees as the entire vessel shone with new brilliance. The bond had awakened a power unseen for millennia. Aaron looked at the princess, breathing hard. We did it, he whispered. She met his gaze, her voice soft for the first time. No. We did it. And in that moment, the walls between them cracked. Pride and prejudice gave way to something new, an uneasy but powerful alliance. But deep within the core, the voice whispered again. The bond is only the beginning. The storm is coming. The princess's doubt was no longer about Aaron. Now it was about the galaxy itself, and whether their fragile bond would be enough to face the darkness that awaited them all. The bond had been formed, for the first time in centuries. Ilarion was alive in its true strength. Its heart pulsed with the joined will of human and alien, and its awakening sent ripples across the galaxy. Enemies who had waited in the shadows stirred, their fleets rising to strike. Aaron stood in the crystal chair, his body steady, though exhaustion lingered. The princess stood beside him, her hand still trembling from the bond. Her eyes burned with something new, not pride, not anger, but determination. They both felt it in their bones. The storm was here. The ship's voice echoed in their minds. They come to end you. They come to end me. Prove you are more than shadows of the past. Scouts rushed into the hangar below, shouting. In panic, an armada. Hundreds of ships, they surround us. The soldiers gasped in terror, their courage breaking. The pirates were nothing compared to this. This was a coalition of warlords, united by greed and fear of Ilarion. The princess's heart raced as she looked at Aaron. Her voice shook. They will destroy us all. Not even this ship can fight so many. Aaron's gaze was calm, almost too calm. Then we don't fight them alone, he said. He pressed his hand against the glowing console. Ilarion, send the call. The ship roared like a thunderstorm. Across the galaxy, a signal spread, not of fear, but of awakening. All who remembered the old alliance, all who still dreamed of freedom, heard the echo. Some ignored it, some cursed it, but others answered. In hidden colonies, ships powered. Up on distant moons, rebels raised their banners. The call of Ilarion stirred hearts long silent. But would they arrive in time? The enemy armada descended, blotting out the stars. Beams of energy lit the sky. turning night into fire. The alien city shook beneath the bombardment, towers collapsing, people screaming. The princess gripped the edge of the console, her eyes wide. "Do something!" she shouted. Aaron closed his eyes, breathing deep. "I can't do it alone," he said softly. "Stand with me." Her pride trembled, but she placed her hand over his. The bond surged, stronger than before. The ship's power flared like a sun, shields rising around the city. Enemy blasts struck. But this time, they broke like waves against stone. The soldiers outside fell to their knees in awe. Their princess and the human stood together, and the ship obeyed them both. Aaron opened his eyes, his voice steady. "Now," he whispered. The Larian unleashed its fury. Beams of pure white fire tore across the sky. Dozens of enemy ships exploded. In the first strike, the rest scattered, regrouping in panic. The princess gasped, her chest heaving. She had never felt such raw power. Not from her armies, not from her ancestors, and yet it was hers now. Shared with the human she once despised, the battle raged. Endless waves of enemy ships crashing against them. But Aaron and the princess fought as one, where his instinct guided the ship's movements. Her strategy sharpened its strikes. He dodged. She commanded. He endured. She focused. Together, they were unbreakable. Still, the enemy numbers were vast. Their flagship loomed, a monstrous vessel bristling with weapons. It launched a cannon blast so powerful the ground shook for miles. The ship's shields flared, but cracks spread across them. Aaron groaned, his body straining under the connection. The princess reached for him, steadying his trembling hand. "Hold on," she whispered. "We are not finished." The ship's voice thundered inside their minds. "One heart is strong, two hearts are stronger, but only united can you awaken the last flame." Aaron looked at the princess, sweat streaming down his face. Her eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. For the first time, she did not see him as lesser. And for the first time, he did not see her as an enemy. They nodded once, silently agreeing. Their bond deepened. The core flared with blinding light. Symbols on the walls ignited in patterns neither of them had ever seen before. The ship roared, its engines burning with ancient fire. "The final weapon," the voice whispered. Outside, Alarian transformed. Panels shifted, weapons unfolded, towers of energy rising from its hull. The soldiers on the ground shielded their eyes. The enemy fleet froze, fear spreading through their ranks. This was no ship, it was a god of war. Aaron and the princess raised their hands together. The ship answered. A beam of energy unlike anything before tore through the flagship. It exploded in a storm of light, shockwaves ripping through the enemy fleet. Ships shattered, fleets crumbled, the sky became fire. And when the light faded, silence followed. The armada was gone. Destroyed, the city was safe, the galaxy would never forget this day. Inside, Aaron slumped back in the chair, his chest heaving. The princess stood tall, her eyes glistening with tears she would never admit. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, slowly, she turned to him. Her voice was soft, heavy with emotion. "All my life, I believed no human could control this ship," she whispered. "And I laughed at you when you tried." She lowered her head, bowing before him. "But I was wrong." Aaron blinked, stunned. The princess of an entire people, proud, unshaken, untouchable, bowed to him. The soldiers outside saw it too, and for the first time, they bowed not only to her, but to him as well. The voice of the ship whispered one last time. "The bond is sealed, the storm is survived. But the journey has only begun." Aaron stood slowly, meeting the princess's eyes. "Then let's face it together," he said. She nodded once, her pride no longer a wall, but a shield shared between them. And so the legend was rewritten. No human could control this ship. The galaxy once believed, but now they would tell a new story of the day a human did, and of the princess who bowed, not in defeat, but in respect.